Hello friends, we shall be discussing about neonatal neurological examination in this video. Like in neurological examination in bigger kids, neonatal neurological examination also encompasses some important elements. It starts from higher mental functions, cranial nerve assessment, assessment of muscle motor assessment, of which tone assessment is the most important part, and then other minor aspects like examination of neonatal reflexes. Some other parts of neurological assessment like assessment of sensory system or assessment of cerebellar system may not be possible in small newborn babies. Another important component is to assess the cranium and spine for any anatomical abnormalities in newborns. Usually the assessment of bladder and bowel function might be difficult, but some simple items like the presence of a palpable bladder, etc., should not be missed when we perform a neurological examination. And also the neurological examination is incomplete without a fundus examination. Before we perform neurological examination, it is important to ensure two things. One is hand hygiene, and second is ensure that the baby is fed at least 1 hour before the examination and is in the behavioral Prestel states, state 3 or state 4. Hand hygiene must be performed using standard hand rub solution or hand wash, ensuring all the steps. Palm to palm, palm to dorsum of the opposite side, palm to palm fingers interlaced, cleaning of the knuckles of either side, fingertips, and thorough cleansing of the thumb. So this completes hand hygiene. Now we'll begin with the assessment of the baby's higher mental functions. In higher mental functions, we need to comment about the baby's level of alertness. We can use various organized systems like Prestels and Brazelton's behavioral states. Then one needs to comment on the nature of the baby's cry, consolability, cuddleability, and habituation. So we'll begin by commenting on the baby's level of alertness. Alertness, unlike in bigger children where we use scales like Glasgow's coma scale, in newborns encompasses 3 unique variables. One is the appearance of the baby, second is the arousal response or arousability of the baby, and third is the motor response of the baby. So based on the appearance, we can say whether the baby is awake, sleepy, or in deep sleep, which will either make us label the baby to be stuporous or comatose. So this baby is definitely not in deep sleep. You may say right now the baby is sleepy, sometime back the baby was awake. The next response is the arousal response. So here one needs to comment how the baby awakens from sleep. Is the arousal response normal? Say for example to sound, the sound of the person speaking, or to some regular noise like clapping or sound of a ringing bell. Or does arousal require a painful stimulus? If the baby only arouses with a painful stimulus and not to the regular stimuli, then the baby may be having either stupor or coma. The third important aspect of commenting on level of alertness is the degree of motor response. Motor response can be characterized either as high level or low level based on 3 important variables. The presence of non-stereotypical movements, the presence or absence of habituation, and the presence of definite latency after a stimulus. So high-level motor response is something that is non-stereotypical, which means it is not repetitive in nature, it is not similar type of movement. For example, the baby may one time may move the leg, another time the baby may move the opposite side hand, etc. So this is non-stereotypical, high-quality movement. Number 2, it must follow the stimulus or provocation after a definite latency. And thirdly, it must be habituating. We will discuss about habituation in a while. Now let's discuss about neonatal behavioral states. Let's start by looking at this baby. Behavioral states can be classified as state 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as per Prestel's system based on 3 important parameters: whether the eyes are open or closed, whether the baby has regular or irregular respiratory movements, and thirdly, whether there are gross body movements. Look at this baby. The eyes are closed. the baby has irregular respiration, and the baby has gross body movements, random gross body movements. So this makes the baby fall under Prechtel's state 2. So states are classified in the following way. State 1, eyes are closed, the baby has regular respiration and no gross body movements. This is similar to deep sleep or non-REM sleep. State 2, eyes are closed but the baby has irregular respiration and gross body movements. This is similar to REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep or light sleep. Third is similar to state 1 but eyes are open. So eyes are open but the baby has regular respiration, the baby is quiet and the baby doesn't have any body movements. So this is said to be quiet awake. State 4 is similar to state 2 but eyes are open. So eyes open, gross body movements present, irregular respiration. This makes the baby state 4. So here the baby is active awake. And finally in state 5 the baby is having active crying, like in this baby. Whether or not the baby is having eyes closed or eyes open, an actively crying baby comes under state 5. So this baby, you can either call the baby as state 2 if the baby isn't crying, and if the baby is actually actively crying, we would label the baby as state 5. Normally, we not only comment on the behavioral state at which the baby lies, but we also see whether the baby has state-to-state variability. So this baby within this examination is varying between state 2 to state 5. So state 2 where eyes are closed but the baby is active, to state 5 where there is active crying. So this is normal for any baby. There must be state-to-state variability. Neonatal behavioral states can also be described with Brazelton system, which is a slightly different system which has 6 states instead of 5 states. Now the second aspect of commenting on the level of alertness or sensorium in newborns is by commenting on habituation. What is habituation? Habituation is the ability of the baby to get adapted to any stimuli after the stimuli is repeated for 3 to 5 times. This can be tested by either visual habituation, auditory habituation, or tactile or somatosensory habituation. Common way of testing for the tactile or somatosensory habituation is by eliciting glabellar tap. So bring your finger to tap over the baby's glabella. This can be performed with either the baby's eyes open or closed, because this is a response only to the tactile stimulus over the glabella and not to the visual stimulus of the finger. So bring the finger closely over the glabella and tap over the glabella at the rate of 1 every second. Normally, the baby responds by either furrowing the brows or by blinking, bringing the eyelids close to each other, which the baby will cease to do after 3 to 5 stimuli. So this technique is used for eliciting the glabellar tap response or tactile sense habituation. Auditory habituation can be elicited or looked for by using the sound of a loud clap or the ring of a bell at a standard distance of 6 inches away from the baby. And likewise, we can look for visual habituation either by shining a bright light in the form of a torch at the rate of 1 bright flash every second, or we can switch on the radiant warmer light and then alternatively cover and uncover the baby's eyes. So here the baby's eyes are closed. So we are not able to see a significant blink reflex, but you can appreciate that there is very subtle blinking the baby is still doing, although the eyes are apparently closed. Now, gradually the baby is no longer responding to the bright light. So this indicates normal habituation. The other important aspects are consolability and cuddleability. So consolability we can easily test now because the baby is crying. So a baby may be consolable after crying for at least 50 seconds, either spontaneously or by talking to the baby or by simply patting over the chest. Some babies would require to be brought close to the examiner and maybe rocked. So this baby has got consoled by bringing the baby close to the assessor or examiner. And some babies may get consoled after giving an oral feed or breastfeed. Sometimes the baby may be inconsolable, whatever we do. So this baby elicited consolability very nicely when the baby was brought and kept close to our body. So this is commonly elicitable in babies. A baby who is inconsolably crying may have a more dangerous condition like meningitis, may have intracranial bleed, may have meningismus due to some other reason, or may have a significant electrolyte disturbances, or could have inborn errors of metabolism or bilirubin encephalopathy, any of these conditions. Excessive irritability and inconsolable cry may sometimes also be a feature of the early stage of hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy or stage 1 HIE, and this is an important sign for us to elicit. While we were looking at the baby crying, we can also look for the nature of the cry. So the cry may vary from a baby who doesn't have cry at all, or a baby who has whimpering cry, or we could have a baby who has a hoarse cry because of bulbar palsy. So if you find a baby with high-pitched shrill cry, we may suspect the baby has excessive irritation due to meningitis, meningismus, subarachnoid hemorrhage, bilirubin encephalopathy. A baby who is having weak or hoarse voice while crying could be having lower cranial nerve palsy or bulbar palsy. And a baby who is having no cry at all may either have encephalopathy because of excessive dose of barbiturates or other sedating drugs, or could be having advanced stage of hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy. So we've discussed the assessment of the level of alertness or the baby's sensorium. And in this, we have discussed the newborn baby's state,